Hello all, hope you're well. Today's date is the 8th of June 2025. Nothing in this video is to be construed as legal advice, for it certainly is not. If you'd like to contact me, then feel free to email me at forwardunravelsall@mail.com, and please like the video if you think it has value, and feel free to subscribe if you fancy seeing more videos from this channel. So, a gentleman called Clive sent me a little info and permitted me to make a video for educational purposes. Thank you, Clive. Clive recently had another visit from a third-party interloping debt collector called Richburns Ltd, who, by the way, have zero legal rights to apply for a warrant of entry. Anyhoo, the alleged authorised officer's name is Trevor Williams, and Trevor proceeded to show Clive a piece of paper that Trevor seemingly believed was powerful in some way. It is not, but Trevor must have thought it was. It's about as worthless as it can get, but no doubt Trevor felt secure in his own world, and that's all that matters. Hey. So in order to offer something that may be educational, I sat down with Lawkeeper and studied the worthless pieces of paper and plastic. Oh yes, there's two. There's an ID card about to be shown as well. I use that term very loosely. And then started to draft a notice that I may serve if Trevor or some other third-party interloper turned up at my home under potentially criminal pretences. After the notice was complete, I uploaded two case law judgments to Lawkeeper, one being Leighton v. Bristow and Suter, and one being R v. Sherman, and asked Lawkeeper to audit both and produce a brief educational report on why these cases are relevant to Richburns in this context. I hope you enjoy. Let's go over to Trevor and the worthless pieces of paper and plastic. Although as evidence for us, they actually become very valuable, especially when we all start the process of holding these guys and girls to account, as I'm sure you will, because otherwise you're just whinging and not really helping. Check this out. So allegedly, this is from Scottish Power. This is Trevor. I've blurred his face out just for common decency, and on the ID card, which you'll see in a minute. So it states, "Dear customer," and then we have "to whom it may concern." And then it starts with, "In accordance with the Electricity Act 1989, hold on a minute, let's just back this up. So we're now getting legislation quoted. So this better be authentic and it better be lawful, otherwise there's trouble at mill. In accordance with the Electricity Act 1989, Schedule 6, and or the Gas Act 1986, Schedule 2B, as amended, the holder of this letter is an authorised officer of Scottish Power Energy Retail Limited and is duly authorised excuse me, to contact customers in order to check customer and meter records and also obtain payment on their behalf. Scottish Power Energy Retail Limited also authorised the holder of this letter to make applications to the court for warrants of entry." Excuse me. Check this out as well. Look how they've put all the brackets, and I mean, it's just all over the place. It's like Trevor quickly done this on the loo before he came out for the day. "And for the execution of these warrants." I don't really think so. "Insert holder's name, Trevor Williams, if you wish to verify the identity of this agent." Agent is meant to be a direct employee. "Please telephone the following helpline number." There you go. It's probably the Samaritans, I should imagine. "Yours faithfully, Neil Pegram, head of UK debt operations." Okay, we're getting to the crux of the matter, and that's it. Now let's go over to this ID card. Check this out. So this is this is Richburns' ID card. And apparently it's an authorised officer with just Trevor. Trevor is an authorised officer, and he's approved by Paul Clark, who's the Chief Operating Officer at Richburns. Okay. So I may send something like this, but as I said earlier, there is so many questions and so much information on the videos already. I'm sure you could develop your own incredible process to start holding these guys to account that may also include small claims or bigger. Private notice of lawful concern and potential liability to Paul Clark, Chief Operating Officer, Richburns Ltd. Address, date, and then. "Sir, this notice is served upon you personally and privately in your capacity as Chief Operating Officer of Richburns Ltd. It concerns serious and lawful questions regarding the conduct of field agents purportedly acting on behalf of Richburns and Scottish Power in relation to alleged energy debts and rights of entry. on such and such a date, a man identifying himself as Trevor Williams visited my property, displaying an ID card bearing Richburns branding and presenting a document that claims to authorize him to apply for and execute warrants of entry under the Gas Act 1986, the Electricity Act 1989, and the Rights of Entry Gas and Electricity Boards Act 1954. This letter appears to be signed by Neil Pegram of Scottish Power and claims that Mr. Williams is an authorised officer empowered to enter homes and act on behalf of the utility company. You are hereby formally notified of the following legal concerns. 1. Misrepresentation of legal authority. The documents shown at Doorsteps give the impression that Trevor Williams has statutory powers to apply for and execute entry warrants. However, the Rights of Entry Act 1954 makes clear that entry without consent is only lawful if authorised by a warrant granted by a court upon sworn written evidence of necessity. There is no evidence that the letter or ID shown meets this legal threshold. Number 2. Fraud by false representation and use of articles. If any field agent knowingly claims or implies legal powers that do not lawfully exist and does so in order to gain entry or secure payment, this may constitute fraud by false representation under Section 2 of the Fraud Act 2006. The use of letters and ID cards that falsely imply statutory authority may also fall under Section 7, which criminalises the use of articles in the course of fraud. Number 3. No legal basis for warrant application. Only an authorised officer of the utility company or a public gas transporter acting under clearly delegated statutory authority may apply for a warrant under the 1954 Act. The ID card shows Trevor is authorised by Richburns Ltd, not Scottish Power, or any statutory body. There is no visible evidence that he holds a valid written delegation of power within the meaning of the law. 4. Unlawful presentation of internal company ID as statutory proof. The Richburns issued ID for Trevor is an internal company badge. It carries no legal weight. Displaying such identification in a way that causes a member of the public to believe it has statutory force may constitute deception or harassment. 5. Harassment and coercion risk. Repeated home visits using intimidating language, threats of entry, or presentation of questionable paperwork may amount to harassment under the Protection from Harassment Act 1997, particularly where the visits are unwanted and cause distress or fear. Number 6. Relevant legal precedent. In Leighton v. Bristow and Suter, it was held that field agents who falsely claimed legal authority to enter premises were acting unlawfully. The court recognized this conduct as a form of harassment and potential trespass. You are now formally requested to answer the following lawful questions within 14 days. 1. On what statutory basis does Richburns Ltd claim the right to authorise individuals to apply for or execute warrants of entry? 2. Has Scottish Power lawfully delegated this authority in writing to Richburns Ltd? Please provide a copy of the full contract or instrument. 3. Is Trevor Williams an employee or subcontractor of Richburns Ltd? If so, provide evidence of his specific powers. 4. Has Richburns Ltd taken legal advice confirming that the paperwork shown at Doorsteps complies with the Fraud Act 2006, the Rights of Entry Act 1954, and other applicable consumer laws? 5. Have courts granted warrants based on the paperwork Richburns provides, and were those courts made aware that the documents originate from a commercial agent and not from the utility company itself? Failure to respond within 14 days may be taken as an admission that no lawful authority exists, and this may be used in evidence in any future private or public legal action. Over to Lawkeeper. So public education report, just a brief one. Why two key cases, Leighton v Bristow and Suter 2023 and R v H. Sherman Limited 1949 matter in the Richburns / Scottish Power situation. 1. Leighton v Bristow and Suter. Core facts. A private enforcement firm sent an agent to a debtor's home, alleged debtor's home, implying he had powers of entry and seizure, when in fact no such legal authority existed at the time. The agent misrepresented his powers, and his conduct caused alarm and distress to the householder. Legal outcome. The High Court found that the conduct could constitute harassment under the Protection from Harassment Act 1997, trespass where the visit was based on misleading authority claims, a misrepresentation of legal status breaching public protection standards. Why it's directly relevant to Richburns. Trevor Williams, acting on behalf of Richburns Ltd, visits homes, sorry about my voice today guys, carrying a Richburns issued ID and a Scottish Power letter, allegedly. These documents imply lawful powers of entry and warrant enforcement, despite there being no visible lawful delegation under the Gas Act 1986, Electricity Act 1989 or Rights of Entry Act 1954. If the authority to act was not properly granted by statute, the act of knocking, threatening entry, or demanding payment mirrors the unlawful conduct in Leighton. Legal doctrines reinforced. You may not use private company documents to simulate judicial or statutory authority. Causing fear through misrepresentation equals potential harassment. Over to R v H. Sherman Limited 1949. Core facts. H. Sherman Limited, a private business, had agents falsely claim they were acting with powers conferred by law. Ring any bells? Specifically by government defence regulations. These claims were not true, and the agents' actions led to coercion of others under false pretences. This has been going on for so long, guys and girls. Legal outcome. The company was convicted for criminal misrepresentation of authority. The court held that even implied false claims of legal power were sufficient for criminal liability. Let me repeat that. The court held that even implied false claims of legal power were sufficient for criminal liability. Private companies cannot cloak themselves in public authority unless lawfully delegated such powers. Why it's directly relevant to Richburns. Richburns is not a public gas transporter or electricity distributor. Trevor Williams' ID and the Scottish Power letter are private documents, not statutory instruments. If these are used to falsely imply statutory warrant powers, Sherman is clear authority that this is a criminal conduct. Legal doctrines reinforced. Misrepresenting powers under an act equals criminal offence. No company may claim statutory authority unless the statute itself grants it. Intent to cause submission or payment through such claims equals deception. Combined strategic value. Legal point. Harassment through false claim. Leighton, tick. Sherman, tick. No lawful delegation equals unlawful visit. Leighton, tick. Sherman, tick. Misrepresentation of statutory authority. Leighton, tick. Sherman, tick. Commercial agents treated as public actors if they claim such powers. Leighton, tick. Sherman, tick. Supports public complaint and criminal referral. Leighton, tick. Sherman, tick. Get that police number. Public summary, speech friendly. If a private company like Richburns sends someone to your home and claims they have legal powers to enter or enforce warrants, but they don't have real court authority or written powers under the law, they may be breaking the law themselves. Two important court cases show it is unlawful to pretend to have powers from Acts of Parliament when you don't. You can't pressure people into letting you in or paying money just because you show them a badge or letter. Doing that could be harassment, trespass, or even fraud. This is especially serious when someone tries to look like they're acting for the government or courts, but they really just from a private company. See you later, guys.